Israel to dismantle the MOU and to possibly do something that would be so dramatic that the entire structure of peace will fall apart, which is the assassination, possible assassination of Mojtaba Khamenei. Well, folks, this is a transition protocol, and I am delighted to invite Alex Krainer to the team, the really fantastic team that we are building in this channel to bring you the news the that is definitely not available in mainstream media. It is also not available in the shows that are very popular, because the news that we get is from privileged sources, and it is presented to you by people who have decades of experience in bringing you the quality of information that you value so much. So today, it is my very great pleasure to invite Alex Krainer to our conversation. If you like what you see, kindly hit the subscribe button and the like button, because that feeds the algorithms and that allows us to have the kind of viewership that we have seen recently, that is not at all common in social media. We have over 2 million views less than 3 weeks, and hopefully you'll be joining us in listening to what Alex has to say. And I will request him to introduce himself, because he has a very rich background that I want you to know about. So go ahead, Alex. Please first introduce yourself.
Zulfikar, thank you for your kind invitation. It's a pleasure to join you today. I am a Croatian national. I used to spend many years in oil trading as an oil market analyst. I transitioned into the hedge fund industry. I worked as a hedge fund manager for about 15 years. I'm also an author. I published 3 books that had the distinction of being banned. One of them got banned twice, and that was my treatise on geopolitics about the relationship between Russia and the West. And I have remained active on the podcasts, in podcasts, in conferences, and in continuing writing blogs and Substack. And I have a YouTube channel. And that basically is me in a nutshell. I'm from Croatia. I live in Monaco. That's about my story in a few seconds that we have.
Well, Alex, you have a very, very rich background, which is the reason that I wanted to invite you, and I'm grateful that you accepted our invitation to join us. We do not have that many people, but we have the best people. I would say we have people who cover all aspects of the tectonic shifts that are taking place in the world right now. The world is changing as we speak, and the background that you bring is very, very significant to the understanding that people need to have, so that they can a understand exactly what's going on, and b change their lives in a manner in which they can best protect themselves with the changes that are going to happen in the geopolitical structure that we have seen since World War II come apart and a new structure come in place. This is exactly what is going on. I invite you to discuss what is going on, particularly right now with the US Iran war, the MOU that is in place, the tremendous effort being made by Israel to dismantle the MOU and to possibly do something that would be so dramatic that the entire structure of peace will fall apart, which is the assassination, possible assassination of Mojtaba Khamenei. This is something that is not news, but the news that we have, because we have some access to privileged sources of information, is that this plot graduated from planning to operational stages, and but it is actively being neutralized as we speak because of the relationship between Pakistan military intelligence and Pakistan military and Iran. Field Marshal Munir is in Iran right now. The Prime Minister of Pakistan is in Iran, as are the heads of maybe 100 different states. But Israel will do what Israel wants to do because they consider this to be something that they cannot tolerate, and maybe something that will dismantle their settler state. So I invite you to provide your perspective on it.
To my mind, I think it's extremely important to keep the broadest possible context to all these events. And as George Soros, Klaus Schwab, and other Western leaders have informed us, what we're experiencing is a clash between two systems. It's a clash between two systems of governance. And they like to characterize it as a clash between democracies and autocracies, or open societies versus closed societies. Whereas in fact, we're looking at a clash between Western neo-colonial imperialist model of governance versus everybody else who don't want to submit to it, who want to retain their sovereignty and independence and manage their society's affairs as they see fit to their requirements. And the reason why I think it's important to keep that perspective in mind, because the current conflict going on between the United States and Israel on the one side and Iran on the other side is not something that has been, let's say, formulated by Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. This predates both these leaders. It goes back decades, and we know that Benjamin Netanyahu himself has been trying to encourage practically every administration during his career to attack Iran for him. So, even though Trump is the first president who blundered into this, he's not the first one that was pressured into attacking Iran. In fact, Trump was already pressured into attacking Iran in the summer of 2019, 7 years ago. And at that time, he declined to launch an attack on Iran. And at that time, we also find out the source of pressure on him to attack Iran, which was the British embassy in Washington, where the ambassador was Sir Kim Darroch. And the cables between the British embassy in British embassy in Washington and the Foreign Office in London were leaked out by Anonymous. And we found out that Sir Kim Darroch was the one who was orchestrating this campaign of pressure on Trump, and that after Trump declined, that they were extremely upset. But what Sir Kim Darroch was saying is that he believed that Trump could still be maneuvered into attacking Iran by, as they said, flooding the zone around Trump with people he characterized as Trump whisperers. And one of the people that he characterized as it was Stephen Miller, who is still close to Trump. But we know that there are other people like Susie Weil, and there are quite a number of them, including his donors and so forth. There's no point naming them all. But the point I'm trying to make is that the policy is the policy formulation is a level above Trump himself. So even though I'm one of those people who is profoundly disappointed in Trump, we have to recognize that this is not his policy. He's just playing his role, but the policy predates him. And therefore, we have to assume that the policy will continue after Trump. So at the moment, I think that Trump may have had enough. But the whole juggernaut, the whole machinery that has been mobilized to dismember Iran or to regime change it, to submit it, to let's say bludgeon it into submission to this Western neo-colonial imperialistic system, will continue until it has been completely defeated. So it's not a question of whether Trump will honor the MOU, whether the negotiations will lead to peace and so on, so forth. The negotiations might lead to a pause, or maybe not, and they will begin immediately seek for the next opportunity to decapitate Iran in some way, whether it will be assassinations, whether it will be sabotage operations, whether it could be some form of an opium war, because they've used this policy method very effectively over the last 2 centuries to destroy even 5,000 year civilizations like China, and bring it to turn it into the world's poorest country by the 1960s, or maybe a ground invasion, color revolutions. We may not know yet, but they will opportunistically seek every possible way to take Iran off the chessboard. So that will continue, whether on Trump's watch or somebody else's watch. So the events that we see unfolding today are mere tactical reshufflings, but this conflict between two systems of governance will continue. And I think it'll continue until one side has been completely defeated. And in this sense, I also would like to underscore that the war against Russia in Ukraine, and the war against the Palestinian and Lebanese people, and the war between the United States and Israel against Iran, they are merely different battlefronts of the same conflict. And that, again, is the conflict between two systems.
You went, you became mute for a second. Did you stop talking?
No, no, I did stop. I did stop talking.
Okay. All right. So I completely agree with you, Alex. I totally agree with you. I have been deeply, deeply engaged with this subject for a while. But since we started our show, our channel, I've been talking to people that Pepe Escobar, who was a globe-trotting journalist all over the world, Larry Johnson with CIA background, Vijay Prasad, heading Tricontinental Institute all over the world, and just spoke to him. And my own privileged access, which has been actually really, really privileged at the very top, has all pointed in the same direction. Every single one of them in the same direction that you just pointed out, which is that this is an existential conflict between two different societies. But they have also pointed me in the direction of the winning side, which is China. Pakistan is the poster child of China. Pakistan is in the front. Everybody sees Pakistan. In fact, the Iranian ruling party praised Pakistan in their parliament, which almost never happens for their role in the MOU. President Pezeshkian first visited Islamabad soon after the MOU was signed. Before he went anywhere else, he did not go to any Western capital. He did not go to any Gulf capital. He went to Islamabad because Pakistan has been playing a significant role. So the proposition that I want to bring to you for your analysis, Alex, is that I understand, and so does I think a lot of our viewing audience, which is very well informed, that this is an existential conflict between two societies, and the Western society, which is led by America, United States, post World War II, dominant in that entire region, is on its way out. That is the view. And China is replacing that vacuum. Pakistan is providing security, in the way that it does, with the pact with the Saudis and soon with the Qataris, as far as I know, and other places. So this is going to eventually result in China becoming the dominant power, not the hegemon that the United States has been. And it is my understanding from everything that I know that this is likely to happen very quickly, like within the next year, within maybe sooner than that. That the bases start closing gradually, slowly, and then eventually the U.S. bases are gone, uh, and Iran emerges as a dominant power in its own right. Pakistan emerges as a net provider of security. China emerges as the dominant trading partner of everybody, which it already is. And the world's economic order changes. The petrodollar collapses. Now that is a tectonic shift. It will affect everybody. So please, your what do you think?
I agree with you, and if we look at it from the military point of view, I entirely agree with you. My concern is that I believe that the first of all, the conflict will not stop at the military at the conclusion of military activities, because the other side, this Western colonialist system, they don't necessarily have to defeat their opponents militarily, because their modus operandi has been to destabilize governments. And in that case, in that sense, they don't need to defeat IRGC in the battlefield. It's enough for them to destabilize the government and overthrow it and install a puppet ruler in their place. You know, and we've seen that, for example, in Venezuela. You know, where effectively they took out Maduro, they left Delcy Rodriguez in charge, and seemingly Delcy Rodriguez is caving into every demand that they have. And so, you know, this is a clash between destroyers and builders. And building is a long, slow, thoughtful, meticulous process. Destruction is easy, you know. So you have this uh, Western side, which they have many, many ways of destroying societies. If they can't do it militarily, they'll do it through assassinations, through opium wars, through color revolutions. They have many, many methods. And so the world that is emerging, the let's call them the multipolar integrations that wish to build prosperous societies across the world that will trade and cooperate as equals in a way that's respect. China has been doing this. You know, China has uh, lifted more than 800 million of its citizens out of poverty. In 1960s, China was literally the poorest country in the world, and they rose to the status of a superpower. And it's clear that their model of development is to lift other parts of the world out of poverty, because they reckon that it's better to have prosperous neighbors, because then you can conduct good trade, because you know you can do more trade with people who have purchasing power than people who are dirt poor. That makes perfect sense. But the other side, you know, they're destroyers, and they are very good at being destroyers. You know, Western civilization has destroyed six major indigenous civilizations around the world over the last 5 centuries. And they've literally destroyed thousands of minor cultures and kingdoms and populations everywhere. Western civilization is very good at what they do, they're very effective. So their military defeat will not be the end of the story. I think that the Chinese and the Iranians and the Russians have to be prepared for that, but I believe that they are. I think that they understand the score. And I think that for that reason, the battle will continue. The conflict will continue, maybe by other means, but it will definitely continue. And we see that currently today, even you know, even as they still try to keep the MOU on life support and the negotiations going, that the Western side is continuing to amass troops and arsenals and weaponry in the vicinity of Iran to give themselves the option to for another hurrah. which seems to me that the most credible scenario now is that they are trying to purge the pro-Iranian element from Iraq in order to stage some kind of a Iran-Iraq War 2.0. And again, they don't need to defeat Iran. They need to destabilize it and then partition it. It's most of Iran's oil wealth is in the northwestern regions of Iran, which are not on the mountainous terrain, so they would be comparably easier to conquer. And then they can leave the rest of Iran to be partitioned maybe by separatist
Uh,
group, by terrorist
Lost your
groups,
voice,
and by other methods. So this is almost like a rust
Alex.
that continues to
Cannot hear
attack
you. Cannot.
and continues to um,
Uh, your net is your internet is a little weak. We lost maybe a minute of what you were saying.
yeah. So I was saying that it seems that they are now preparing the terrain for another assault on Iran from Iraq. And again, they don't have to conquer all of Iran. They could be satisfied temporarily by taking over their oil-rich regions, which are mostly in the northwest of Iran, in on the plain, not on the mountainous regions, but on the flat territories. So relatively easier to conquer. So they will continue giving themselves all these options to destabilize and partition, balkanize Iran, and they will not stop trying. They will, this Western system that is attacking everyone is like rust. It doesn't sleep. They continue to attack nonstop. And once they're done in Iraq, with Iraq, nobody should have any illusions that then we'll have peace and everybody's going to go back to being nice. No, they've already said next we're doing Turkey, and they even were saying like when we're done with Iran, we're going to Pakistan. We're going to take down Pakistan, and obviously they still wanted to, yeah, they want to take down Russia, and then once they're done with Russia, I promise you that the idea is that they would use Russia against China in the same way that they have used Ukraine against Russia. So they would use the manpower and the weaponry of Russia to destroy once again China. And I think that they will never stop until they have been completely defeated and disenfranchised.
Alex, I am so glad that you went through this description of what the grand plan is, because I was hesitating to spell out the plan myself, even though I must admit that I was provided some very credible information from reliable sources at the very top of the intelligence community, from where I am associated only by friendship, no other way. That this is exactly the plan, and I was actually even told that the United States is preparing for this assault sometime in this coming winter. I was this is information that I had, but I was reluctant to share it with our audience. But in the context of what you just said, it makes perfect sense that this is what they are going to try to do. Uh, Now, the question that I wish to pose to you is that uh, China is very well aware of all what is going on right now, extraordinarily well aware, and Pakistan and China are just joined by at the hip, basically joined at the hip. And the port that they have constructed at Gwadar, which is now very active in shipping all kinds of stuff to Iran, is one of the deepest seaport in the world, and can handle a huge amount of traffic. So with Pakistan's profile, rising, extraordinarily well based upon everything that they have shown their ability to do, and acting, in concert with China and Russia, blessing all of this. How do you see this thing playing out?
It's very difficult to say, Zulfikar, because when we look at their military plans, they can be completely formulated, they can be even agreed upon. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be acted upon, because if you go back to 2021, 2022, you might remember that everybody in the United States was talking about going to war against China, and we had
Yeah,
testimonials from people in Congress where they were very categorically and with a certitude saying we will be at war with China by 2025. We had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was saying in some of these congressional committees that they were talking like this was a done deal. Well, 2025 came and went, and nothing happened yet. And we also know that Iran was on the list of 7 countries to be taken down in 5 years since 2001, meaning that Iran was due for a regime change within 2006. 20 years later, they're still working on it, but it hasn't happened. I think that what is extremely important at this moment is that regional powers like Pakistan and Iran and major powers like Russia and China have understood what's coming their way, and they have understood that they have to work together and that they depend on each other, because otherwise they're going to be picked off one by one, and one country will be used as a bludgeon against the next one. So China understands that their future vitally depends upon Iran and upon Russia. And I think that Pakistan here is emerging as an extremely important player, because Pakistan has been so very deeply in the United States orbit that they know the enemy very, very well. And they probably are one of the most logical partners to bring on board, to say, look, we have to uh, create common defenses. Otherwise, we're all going down to this rot that's emanating from the West and that is trying to take us all down. And so this is like a gathering front, which is making it extremely difficult for Western powers to just use the same playbook again and again and again. Um, and then also we have to keep in mind that the very fact that you and I can have this conversation also changes the equation, because up until maybe 20, 30 years ago, well, okay, let's call it 30 years ago, we literally depended on newspapers and television and radio for knowing what's going on in the world. So for these people that instigate wars, it was very easy for them to control the narrative, to convince us that, Russia is the devil, China is the devil, Iran is the devil, we have to go to war against them, we have to mobilize the whole society, otherwise they're coming for us, the barbarians at the gates story. Uh, this is now very, very difficult, because people are, as you mentioned, people are going to the social media for their information, and here they find a great diversity of narratives, and they get to make up their minds, and nobody believes the politicians in the West, and hardly anybody believes the mainstream media in the West. So that is a completely unprecedented thing in history of humanity that has never existed. But there is zero chance that this doesn't radically change the formula, the equation of how societies evolve, how they can be mobilized to war. And we see that the Western leaders are enormously frustrated with their inability to control the narrative and with their inability to mobilize their own populations for war.
absolutely, absolutely correct. And this is very astute observation, Alex. I am so glad that you are articulating what we wish to say from a different perspective, which was exactly the reason I invited you, because you have a different perspective, and you are in Europe.
Yes.
You you know, the twin brother of America, which is in decline, and Europe is in decline as well. And I happen to have the good fortune of having been born in India, raised in Pakistan for a certain amount of time, but lived in the West, in the United States, almost all my adult life, and gone to school and college here, and traveled extensively, repeatedly, but still maintaining ties with the with the homeland, so to speak, of Pakistan and also in India. And everybody that I have spoken with who is in a position to know, and these are people who really, really know what is going on, absolutely 100% uh, confirm everything that you just said, Alex. I mean, maybe you know this or maybe you don't, but I have happened to speak with people who are, near the heads of state. Okay,
Mhm.
in multiple places. And so did Vijay Prasad, with whom I just had a conversation, who speaks to these people. Every single one of them understands the game. The game is over.
Yes.
They are the Western powers are not going to be able to do what they have been doing for centuries. The game is over. And the tectonic shift that is taking place presently, as we speak, is that Pakistan has succeeded. I mean, with China obviously totally backing it, in getting Saudi Arabia to move away from the orbit of the United States. They signed this mutual defense agreement, which has recently, I mean, not known to many people, been expanded to include a nuclear umbrella that Pakistan
Yes.
has.
Yes. Yes.
And Qatar is very close to signing it. Pakistan is very, very close to Turkey in the development of very advanced sixth generation fighter jets. Very, very much moving in the direction that we are talking about. And for that reason, it is incredibly frustrating to the Western powers to achieve what they wish to achieve. So the question is what is your judgment about these Gulf regimes, which have been vassal states until now? If they move away from the West collapses.
Well, I think that they are in a very complicated position, largely of their own making as well. Because they have made the deal with the devil. They accepted to trade their exports in U.S. dollars. They agreed to the creation of the petrodollar system, and now they're caught in a trap of. And they've also used those dollars to buy protection from the United States. It's a form of protection racket that they assumed was solid, but now they realize that it was just completely fake. It was just a glossy brochure. And now, the bulk of their wealth is in Western financial institutions. And these Western financial institutions and the governments behind them, they don't hesitate to tell them, well, like if you cross us, we're going to take your wealth. It's going to be taken away from them. And so, if you have hundreds of billions of dollars sitting at the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank, and the government of the United States tells you, now you're going to allow us to use your territory to attack Iran, or else, well, then they think, oh, maybe we have to just close our nose and go along, because maybe this will be successful and everybody lives happily ever after. But now they have seen that not only was it not successful, but that the Western power has proven to be very, very hollow, literally a paper tiger. So now they do not have the protection. That wealth that they hold in Western financial institutions, they might have to kiss that goodbye. But they have to go on. Life goes on. and you see when the tides are turning. So being on the wrong side of history could now cost them entirely their future. So now they're realizing, if we want protection, maybe the best kind is to completely overhaul the security architecture in our region. And the old security architecture, which was actually an insecurity architecture, the continuation of 200 years of British geopolitics, pitting everybody against everybody, keeping everybody weak, dependent on the Western powers for armaments and for credit. Whereas if they cooperate with their neighbors, like the Iranians, the Pakistanis, the Turks, if all these regional powers cooperate together, then they are strong. And then they can resist the rust from the West. And I think that this is dawning upon everybody. Now, they have to move delicately because they're not sure what the consequences might be. Sanctions by Western powers could destabilize their economies, that could destabilize the government. So they fear being overthrown. They fear losing the hold of on the levers of power. So they need a lot of reassurance from Iran that, look, we mean no harm. We want to be good neighbors. They need reassurance from Pakistan that can actually provide the nuclear defense umbrella. Uh, Reassurance from China that they will have access to development funds, that they will be able to trade with them, and that the prosperity will improve over the long time, which is probably the most important guarantor of the continuity of these governments. Because once the economy goes, then everything else might follow. So China and Russia here are maybe the most important um, reassurances that they will keep the region stable and that they will keep increasing the prosperity for their own populations. This is going to be a process. This is not something that, from one day to the next, you flip a switch and then everybody says, like, okay, goodbye, the United States. We're going to completely shift to the other side. It's complicated. There's the IMF, there's the World Bank, there's debts that need to be serviced and repaid. Uh, yeah, for some reason that I don't quite understand, everybody's deathly afraid of the IMF. You know, even when they realize that they're being scammed, they still don't dare to oppose the IMF. I mean, and you know, when I say that I don't understand why, I understand why. I just don't understand how the mechanics work. The why, we can see that, when Bolivia, under Evo Morales some years ago, declined an aid package from the IMF, then the next thing that happened was a coup, and Evo Morales' government was overthrown. In 2015, when Yemen declined a helping hand from the IMF, then there was a war that was started against Yemen from Saudi Arabia. That is, Saudi Arabia was the proxy. The war was instigated by Western powers. So the prospects of turning your back on the Western powers and the Western institution is certainly daunting. And so all these heads of state, they understand what they're up against, but they are afraid of unexpected outcomes and unintended consequences. But they see which way the wind is blowing from. So I think that the process will probably span some time, and it will take, again, it will take bringing Turkey fully on board, uh, reassurances from Iran that they will be a guarantor of stability and peace in the region, reassurances from Pakistan in the same vein, and from Russia and China that the economic development and prosperity will carry on even without the involvement of Western powers.
That is exactly the read that I have, Alex. 100%. I mean, I could not. actually say it better than what you have just said. 100%. Every time I have a conversation with people who are also observing this, very knowledgeable people, they are just shocked that these vassal states will make a turn. And I tell them that everything I know, everything I've heard, everything I've studied says that they are in fact making the turn, that they are in fact finally getting away from their masters, and it's going to take some time
Yes.
before this will be evident. And you have explained it really really well that these shifts will take time because all these rulers understand, and some of them have experienced it also, the wrath of the West when they
Yes.
don't toe the line, and they don't want to be faced with the same kind of all every the entire hell of war that Iran has faced for the last 50 years almost. So the change is going to happen. So we need to we need to continue this conversation, Alex. So if you don't mind, we will meet again weekly. I will talk to you after this podcast is stopped for our next in series conversation. So for our audiences, this conversation will continue. Kindly hit the subscribe button, kindly hit the like button, and we will let you know exactly when Alex will be available on our channel to provide us with the extraordinary depth of analysis that he has just done. Alice, give me a second, but don't stop your machine yet because it needs to upload. I'm going to stop the
Sure.
recording
Yes. Yes.
right now. Okay.